Over the last few years, the migrant crisis has exploded across our TV sets, front pages, and internet screens all around the world. But there is a very specific type of migrant, asylum seeker. People from the LGBT community fleeing to hopefully a better world from countries which, frankly, might mean the death sentence for their being gay. Here to talk about that with us is attorney Okan Sengun. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So talk to me before we get into the discussion of asylum seekers who are LGBT. Talk to us a little bit about your personal story. Where are you from originally? How did you get here? And how did you set up your practice and this nonprofit?
Yeah, so I'm from Turkey originally, and I came to the United States as an immigrant, and I've been through the same process as all of my clients go through, and experience the same struggles. And but after it's over, the immigration process is over, then you can. I was able to establish my life, start over, and yeah, and I started for a nonprofit for LGBT refugees, mostly from the Middle East, and that's how I got involved with the immigration law. And I realized the intersection, like the LGBT issues and immigration law, and I really enjoyed it. I've become very passionate. And since then, I've been doing this.
So what year did you immigrate from Turkey to the United States?
2008.
And was this just the regular process of coming, or was it as an asylum seeker?
It was a long process from 2008 until I was able to say, hey, okay, I settled down. It was a long process.
But I mean, did you come because you were fleeing what you considered LGBT persecution in India? I mean, in Turkey?
In Turkey, yeah. So as a gay Turkish man, you're not as free as we are here. That's why that was the main reason that I wanted to leave.
And how old were you at that time? That was 2006?
Yeah, so I was 23, 24? 24, actually, yeah.
And in what religious background were you raised?
Not very religious, but the community, the neighborhood, it's very Muslim.
So culturally Muslim, and your parents are Muslim, and your family.
School is Muslim. Your classmates are Muslim. Yeah.
So was your family part of this process, or were you also fleeing your family?
No, they've been very supportive, and they never wanted me go back to Turkey because my life is great here, and yeah.
But now, were you already a lawyer in Turkey when you came,
Yes.
or you studied here?
Both.
So what is it like being an attorney in Turkey, but also someone who knew they were gay? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, when you came over seeking asylum, and I want to talk then about that work, being a gay asylum seeker, was there ever a time being a young attorney in Turkey where you thought, I'm having to fight and uphold laws which are against who I am?
Yes, definitely. And my practice in Turkey was only limited to an internship, which was mandatory for 1 year. And I realized this is not what I wanted to do. I was not passionate about what I was doing. You have to go to the courthouse, which in Ankara was located in a very conservative area. And I really didn't enjoy getting in and out. I didn't feel safe getting in and out even the courthouse. I just didn't feel that I was belong to there.
Right.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that you were a gay man, and what was that process like in Turkey coming out?
It's for all of us, it's not easy. So I knew I was gay when I was 12, 13, and yeah, but the coming out process definitely it was a long one and not an easy one.
Right. So you said your parents have been supportive. When you decided to be an asylum seeker over here, tell me about that process, because I imagine the process is similar for someone else, especially in a Middle East country, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Iran or anywhere, trying to get out and seek asylum as an openly gay person. How does one begin the process after suddenly realizing, I have to leave?
Yeah. So the first step is to physically be in the United States. So the applicant should be physically here. And to start the process, it's a lot of questions that we ask, personal questions. It could be asking questions about their past persecution or what they're afraid of if they have to go back to their home countries, and they have to talk about those. And we write everything down, prepare the application, and the process starts.
Right. So for you, when you came over in 2006, did you come over on a tourist visa? It was just as if you were coming on vacation to the United
I was
States.
an international student.
Okay,
to study law.
Got it. And so at that point, there wasn't your law practice there.
Right.
In 2006, who did you go to? What group
2008.
2008.
2008.
What group or organization did you go to say, "Hi, I'm Turkish. I'm seeking asylum based on my sexual orientation"? Where do you go in 2008?
So my story is slightly different. It's since I was involved with the nonprofit that I was working for. That's when I realized, hey, this actually applies to me as well. So I am a gay person. I'm from Turkey, and I fear that I don't want to live in Turkey as a gay person because I don't think I'll be safe there, which apparently was a good decision now that we look at Turkey's situation. There were nonprofits, but since I was already involved in the business, so I was able to, I was a little more lucky than a lot of the clients, because sometimes if you don't know this process, you might lose your chance to apply for asylum because you only have 1 year to apply for asylum.
So from the time you go in and say, I'm seeking asylum, you have 1 year to complete the process?
You have 1 year to apply for asylum. The 1 year starts from your last entry into the United States, and if you miss that 1 year deadline, then you have to show extraordinary circumstances to say why I couldn't apply.
Or you're sent back to your country.
Yes.
In this age where social media seems ubiquitous, we were talking before the interview started about the coup in Turkey, and they said, "Oh yeah, that was 2 weeks ago," and you're like, "No, it was just Friday,
4 days ago."
Less than a week ago from the time of this taping. In a world in which social media is so pervasive, and one slip of a Facebook friend could mean, death for someone. I've heard stories of some asylum seekers from the Middle East here in San Francisco that literally they had to defriend their life because if someone in their family or someone in their hometown in Iran, in this case, saw them, they think they would be killed. How does one kind of not only seek asylum but build a whole new secret life from scratch?
Yeah, a lot of times they do have 2 Facebook accounts, their families don't know what they do, or they live different lives. One that they have to tell other people from their home countries, and one, if they're here, that the ones that they enjoy and they can be. And it's sometimes it's a hard balance, and sometimes this information leaks to their home countries, and that put them even in more danger.
So even if they're here, they sometimes still face danger.
They do, and they're afraid that their parents would just hop on a plane and come over and find them and face it. I do have clients who are still afraid of that issue.
Right. I understand because of attorney-client privilege, you can't tell names, but give me a story that's especially, I don't want to say compelling because I'm sure they're all compelling, but a story which really illustrates this issue.
A lot of times they, let's see, so I do have, I can give one example.
Yeah.
This client had to leave his country because without his parents knowing that he's leaving, so he couldn't even say bye to his brothers and sisters and parents, and so they had no idea that he actually left. And he said he was going to Turkey from a Middle Eastern country, and then they thought that he was going to live in Turkey, but for work purposes. But he was in the United States, and we started the asylum process. And the struggle that he's been through to escape from his home country to a third country, and then come here without any family support, and when he talks, like he gets very emotional. That's what just came to my mind right now.
Right. How many people are we talking about on an annual basis? And is it increasing in the same way that the immigrant crisis, and I know there's a difference between immigrants, migrants, and asylum seekers, but we're talking about a diaspora which tends to be, over the last 4 years, mainly from the Middle East, fleeing civil war, strife, change of governments that aren't LGBT friendly.
Yes.
How many people are we talking about trying to become asylum seekers in the United States on an annual basis?
A lot of people. So there's no quota for asylum seekers in the United States. That's the difference between the asylum law and the refugee
Yes.
law. And I would say hundreds. And the increase that we receive on a daily basis has increased tremendously.
Right.
Especially after Russia also passed the anti-gay propaganda law. A lot of Russians started applying for asylum as well.
We've just got a couple minutes left. I want to talk specifically about a couple of countries. I want to ask you about your experience being originally from Turkey, and especially in light of events in the last few days, weeks. But talk to me about what countries most of these asylum seekers come from. Which countries are we talking about?
I would say Nigeria. That's one of our main focused countries because there's death penalty if you're gay. Iran, there's death penalty. We deal with Russia because the homophobia is very high. It's very intense in Russian culture. Middle Eastern countries, we do have clients from Mexico. So
Saudi
wherever
Arabia?
there is persecution for being LGBT, that's where we get clients from. There are 80 countries around the world that criminalize
80?
around 80, 76 to 80, that criminalize homosexuality.
Right.
And approximately 8 of them, it's death penalty.
Including, and Saudi Arabia is one of the countries.
Saudi
where there's a
Arabia
death
is one of
penalty.
them.
Right.
Sudan is other one. Nigeria is one of them.
In our last few moments, talk to me about Turkey. I mean, just because I'm sitting in front of someone who was born there, a gay man, watching what happened, I visited Turkey numerous times. Beautiful and warm and welcoming country. And for the last almost 100 years, very proud of itself as, quote unquote, a secular, mainly Muslim country. What do you think of what's going on now inside the country of your birth, both as a Turk and also as a gay man?
It has changed. It has changed. It's been very conservative and very religious. Minorities don't have the same rights as the pro-government people have. That's why a lot of them, they flee right now, and they come to the United States or any other third country to apply for asylum, and they don't want to go back because they don't have their rights.
Right. As someone who was Turkish of birth, do you think Erdogan is a? Do you think Turkey is a true democracy?
We do. Turkish people elected Erdogan, so I would say there's democracy, but has he continued democracy or using it, or I don't think so.
Are you sorry the coup failed?
It was sad. It was a very sad moment, and my parents didn't sleep, my friends didn't sleep, nobody got to sleep that night, and they're still in fear, and we'll see what will happen.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing your
Thank
experience
you.
with us. Next up, our conversation with Paul Margolis, talking to us about our town, SF. We'll be right back. Thanks.